Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert save the day as Anthony Edwards goes cold down the stretch. The Wolves hang on to beat the Blazers. We'll talk about the offensive issues in the second half and Jaden's phenomenal performance next.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy Hump Day, and it is a victory Wednesday after a Timberwolves win in Portland on Tuesday night. This is the postgame podcast. My name is Ben Beecken. I am the host of the daily Locked On Wolves podcast. Welcome in to this victory Wednesday as we break down the Wolves-Blazers game for Tuesday night. A lot to get to this one. Really, actually a very fun game. And, you know, the headline could be the Timberwolves struggle against a below 500 team and only win by 3. But I'm going to be appropriately, I guess, nitpicky. And it don't even have to be that nitpicky. The offense and the defense both had really bad stretches in this game. And that's how this thing ended up being close like it was. But a lot of great Jaden McDaniels moments, a lot of great Rudy Gobert moments, a complete tale of two halves for Anthony Edwards. And honestly, like, I know the Wolves gave up 121 points. But I want to focus more on some of the offensive issues that we saw at times in this game, as weird as that sounds. So a lot to get to here in this one, and we got to give Jaden his flowers very quickly here at the top of the show. So I'll hit my three big things here off the top, and we'll get to some offensive stuff. We'll close with individual studs and duds, as we always do on the postgame pod. Big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube, as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. All right. So the Timberwolves come into this game, obviously a shorthanded Blazers team. Of course, Dame Lillard out for the year. Shaedon Sharpe remains out. And of course, Deni Avdija, who last time against Minnesota did not play well at all, but of course has been phenomenal this year. Still, Portland, I think, is better. Like, if you haven't watched much Portland this year, or you haven't watched maybe much Timberwolves this year, NBA that's not the Timberwolves, and you just are like, Portland's bad, they're very likely going to be in the play-in. They came into this game 9th in the West, 2 under 500, and yes, missing their best player, and I don't know where you'd rank Shaedon Sharpe, 2 of their best 4 players maybe, but they've got some really nice pieces. Toumani Camara maybe has been a little underwhelming this year, but very good. Jeremy Grant still a great role player, really. Drew Holiday still solid on both ends of the floor. Donovan Clingan has been something of a revelation. Scoot Henderson now playing off the bench. They got some energy guys like Matisse Thybulle and Sissoko as well. Vit Krejci, former Timberwolf, preseason Timberwolf a couple years ago. They got him from Atlanta. Like, there's a lot of legit rotation guys on this team, and I think they're going to make some noise. Well, I don't know how much noise you can make in the play-in, but they're going to be a tough out in the play-in because of how hard they play. They've obviously got a good home court advantage. And I say all of this not to create excuses, because the Wolves should have had a little bit of an easier time. But I want to start by saying this had every bit as much to do with how hard Portland was playing. And it starts on the defensive end of the floor. The Blazers were denying catches for Minnesota all the way out to the timeline. Like, simple actions. The Wolves were admittedly lazy, which is not unusual for a team that's supposed to be the better team to do stuff like that. I mean, like, how often do you see the best teams have those issues? Occasionally. It happened more than it should have, and some of it was because of Portland's aggressiveness. It felt a little bit like, I've said this recently, there was somebody else that played the Wolves this way. I can't remember who it was in the moment, but like how the Wolves played 2 years ago, where they were denying catches on the perimeter and pressuring and trapping guys out to the timeline. That aggressiveness on the perimeter is something that NBA players are not accustomed to feeling on the majority of possessions in a regular season, late February game. And Minnesota didn't respond well to it. I mean, the Wolves had 16 turnovers. Ant had 5 of them, another high turnover game for Ant. We'll talk more about that. And a couple of them were just really silly, lazy passes on the perimeter. Stuff like that ultimately has killed the Wolves against some of these inferior opponents. And we certainly saw that on Sunday. Obviously no Rudy Gobert, no Naz Reid in that game, but like that was a game where a lot of those, those ugly turnover issues cropped up again. So credit to Portland first and foremost, because they forced the issue there. And it's something we talked about. I did a brief preview at the end of the show on yesterday. where I talked a little bit about the pace that Portland plays with and also the high number of turnovers that they commit offensively. But at the same time, for a team that is not good defensively, they also force a lot of turnovers. Like, Portland games are high turnover affairs on both ends of the floor, and they're fast paced. And that, predictably, it's what kept Portland in the game. They tried to create a higher pace, higher variance style of game, and they did succeed in doing that. And strangely enough, it's actually kind of sort of what might have helped the Wolves in this game, because the half-court offense continues to struggle for Minnesota. And I guess we got to go there. Then we'll get to Jaden. The half-court offense for Minnesota was bad again in this game. I know they scored 124 points. I know they shot 49% on threes. I know they, shot well over 50% on twos in this game. But the flow just wasn't there. And so much of that shooting was kind of buoyed by Anthony Edwards early in the game, and then some easier buckets in transition toward the end of the game. But if you look at the overall body of work for the Timberwolves in this contest, a lot of it was thanks to some early turnovers forced. Portland turned it over 16 times as well as the Wolves did, and Minnesota ended up with 13 fast break points in this game. There were a couple easy dunks late, but there were some easy buckets early. We don't always see that from this Wolves team. And I thought that actually the actual transition points, what falls into the fast break point category in the post-game box score, but also the secondary break, the semi-transition, if you will, where the action flows out of getting out and getting numbers, gaining the advantage. And it's not truly a half-court set after a make, right? It's not setting up the offense in the half-court, because so many of those possessions fell pretty flat for Minnesota. The ball movement wasn't there. There were a couple stretches middle of the game. There were some in the second quarter, some in the third quarter, where I thought Minnesota's offense was actually humming along a little bit. The ball movement was solid. But so much of the passing in the first and third quarters felt like it was out of necessity. It was, and not even really in the first quarter. The first quarter was just Ant going nuts, and we'll talk about that. But when Ant's scoring dried up, he had 4 points for the majority of the second half, up until the final 3 minutes. When the scoring dried up for Ant, the Timberwolves offense dried up, except for when he was off the floor, because Ant was still trying to call his own number, and I get it. But instead of getting off the ball early, or instead of realizing hey, I don't have the shot I want, and I'm not piping hot like I was in the first half, I need to just pass this ball out. And that there wasn't enough of that from Ant in the second half. And he wasn't the only one, but he's the most obvious one. Julius Randle actually ended up, oftentimes he's a culprit here, but he only had 9 field goal attempts. He just didn't actually, he didn't even get up double-digit shots in this game, right? So he wasn't necessarily a culprit here, as he often is. It was mostly Anthony Edwards. But the overall, there were some Nas moments like that too. The ball movement just was not very good in this game for the Timberwolves. And, thank goodness for the transition opportunities, especially early in this game, that between Ant, being just shooting the lights out in the first half, and the Wolves transition opportunities that they were able to capitalize on, and also some great Jaden McDaniels moments early, the Wolves were able to build. It ultimately ended up only being a 3-point halftime lead, but it was a 12-point lead at one point in the second quarter, and it felt like the Timberwolves could run away with the game. And a big piece of that was some of that the transition opportunities, and the easier buckets they were able to get in transition versus the scuffling that they continue to do in the half court. I do want to get into Jaden McDaniels, of course. I want to get into the that's really kind of the big next thing. We'll talk Rudy Gobert, also Wolves rotation. I thought was intriguing in this game. Some of the minutes distribution we'll get into, and then we'll close with individual studs and duds. We'll do all that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. Just less than a week left here in February. Futures this time of year are awesome. Maybe you're picking a team to win the whole thing, grab the conference title, whatever the case might be. This Picking a team now adds an extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch in the regular season. And now not only can your pick cash, but it could also send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Reminder that you can get Locked On Wolves ad-free with the Everydayer Club. Plus, you'll get access to the members-only Discord channel as well. You can join at lockedonwolves.supercast.com. If you're watching YouTube, you can see you're all on the screen. You can access from there too. But lockedonwolves.supercast.com. Get Locked On Wolves ad-free and join the Discord channel and chat with us about the Timberwolves on a daily basis. There's several of us in there that are having a nice time. Trade deadline, of course. Now we're talking, rotations and all the stuff. Now that Dosunmu is in the fold and Mike Conley's back, there's lots to chat about. So be sure to join again. LockedOnWolves.supercast.com. All right. So we talked about my first big thing was the Timberwolves' clunky offense for much of the game. I know they scored 124 and I know they shot the ball well, but the process was not ideal. My second thing is just straight up Jaden McDaniels. Like, he was the reason the Timberwolves won this game. He was phenomenal. He finished with 29 points on 16 shots. He was 5 of 6 on threes, and he'd been scuffling a little bit outside the arc. Of course, he was hovering around 45% from three for, up until very recently here, and he's still like at 44%. But he did not make a three in the blowout loss to the Sixers on Sunday. He was 0 of 4. He was 1 of 4 the game before that. So one of his last 8. Then he comes out and shoots 5 of 6 from deep. Gets 6 rebounds, 5 blocks, 4 of them, I think it was first quarter, not first half. I think 4 of his 5 blocks were in the first quarter and 3 steals. Dude puts up 8 stocks and a 12 of 16 shooting night. And ultimately 29-6, 5 blocks, 3 steals, 2 assists in this game for Jaden McDaniels. He did it up with 4 fouls. He was very briefly in foul trouble. He picked up a silly foul for his 4th. I think it was early 4th quarter. Came back and it wasn't an issue. The Wolves had several guys who were kind of on the cusp of true foul trouble. I guess Julius Randle really did get into early foul trouble. He picked up 3 fouls in the first half pretty quickly. But McDaniels was awesome. The instincts defensively were off the charts. The effort level, obviously the instincts are always there for Jaden, and the skill level is always there. The athleticism is always there. And I wouldn't say that Jaden often has effort issues, but when he's just okay defensively compared to when he's decides he wants to be awesome, there's a big difference. And he wanted to be awesome in this game. And I don't know if it was playing in the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, his stomping grounds up there. I don't know what it was, but he was great in this game. I thought he gave Toumani Camara the business when he was on him. Camara, by the way, finished with 11 points on 14 shots himself. And Jeremy Grant, by the way, also another player who a couple different Wolves got switched onto, had 21 points on 11 shots. So that sounds like he had a really efficient scoring night. And he did. He got to the free throw line 15 times, but he was 3 of 11 on field goals. And somehow Jeremy Grant, I'll say that again, Jeremy Grant got to the line 15 times in this game. The Timberwolves as a team got to the line 19 times. I don't want to get on an officiating soapbox. It's been probably 6 weeks since I've talked to officiating on the show. It was not good in this game. It was the Portland was allowed to get away with a lot of physicality. Minnesota just was not able to get away with. The Timberwolves were called for 25 personal fouls in this game to Portland's 17, which is just insane. And really, that's a big reason why the Blazers were able to stay in this game. They made 10 more free throws. They attempted 11 more free throws than the Timberwolves did. So anyway, and Julius was in early foul trouble at one point. Rudy was in some foul trouble. And McDaniels had 4 fouls. Nas had 4 fouls as well. So they had 3 bigs with 4 fouls in this game. Well, 2 bigs plus McDaniels with 4 fouls, and Rudy had 3. So anyway, McDaniels was great. Was locked in, did a pretty good job at keeping his composure. There was the play where Dosunmu had the hard foul on Sissoko, and it was a hard foul. I understand why it was a flagrant. Sissoko jumped up wanting to, I guess, be a fake tough guy, because then he ended up just turning around and clapping to the crowd. He got a tech, and Jaden, for whatever reason, got a tech. I guess he kind of grabbed Sissoko and threw him, away, and then kind of pushed him. Like, he really was trying to de-escalate, be a peacemaker, but he was perhaps a little more forceful than he could have been. There were a couple other moments, though. Like, there was one where Jaden had an and one, and you could tell he almost spun the ball at the opponent. I forget who it was on the Blazers, but maintained his composure, didn't spin the ball at the opponent, held on to it. There was another one where he was frustrated with himself for a foul, and he almost fired at the stanchion. You could tell he almost did it, and then he stopped and just bounced it to himself. It seemed like everything was at peak Jaden level in this game. Like he was all the way locked in, all the way there. And hopefully that continues on this West Coast swing in LA here on Thursday night as well. But this was a phenomenal Jaden game. And when he plays like that on both ends of the floor, that's all-star level. Just 100% all-star level. Like just a phenomenal, like, I don't know what else to say about Jaden McDaniels, but he was the reason that this game was essentially, nearly a wire to wire. Portland took a couple brief leads in the middle of the game, but it felt like a wire to wire type win for the Timberwolves because of Jaden McDaniels. Whereas Ant was a complete tale of two halves, was awesome early, just felt like it was going to be a 55-point game for Anthony Edwards. And then he was really bad for most of the second half, honestly, on both ends of the floor. And the shot selection, just shots in and out, missed a couple free throws in the final couple minutes. Just a tough close for Anthony Edwards, but Jaden was consistent and really good throughout the game. Okay, we talked. I want to talk rotation very quickly. Wondered a little bit what this is going to look like following Sunday. Now, Sunday was the first game Mike Conley was back and active for. Actually, no, I guess Friday would have been. But no Naz Reid on Sunday due to the shoulder injury. No Rudy Gobert due to the suspension on Sunday. Obviously, two big guys missing. But the Timberwolves don't really have any other big guys besides Berenger, who, of course, started that game Sunday and got himself into foul trouble. But like there wasn't anyone else that was going to play. So Chris Finch just was like, all right, I'll still play 10 guys in this game. So that meant there were Mike Conley rotation minutes, obviously Berenger, there was Jalen Clark rotation minutes, and then everyone that played in this game, minus Naz and Rudy. So a ton of guys played. Naz and Rudy came back. Berenger didn't play in this game. Mike Conley didn't play, and Jalen Clark didn't play. We still saw TJ Shannon rotation minutes, which was very intriguing. He only played 6 minutes, but I thought he was pretty good in this game. Defensively, still looks like he's sluggish, maybe is the right word. Like whatever turbo boost he gets in the open floor when he's busy being a terror in transition, which I can't talk about TJ Shannon without calling him a terror in transition. I think I have to at this point. Feels like I'm obligated to. But like we saw it again in this game. He had one dunk, just like like you're mashing a turbo button in like Madden or 2K or something, and he gets a dunk in transition. But defensively in space, it's like he's just a little slow-footed. And he can't stay in front of guys. We saw some of that, going back to his college tape at Illinois. I had some concerns there, but I chalked it up to he was carrying the entire load offensively for that Illinois team. I thought he'd been a better defender early in his career at Texas Tech before he transferred, and figured that the tools were there. The body type is there. The athleticism is there. And I thought he'd be better in the NBA. And who knows, maybe the foot's still bothering him. Maybe he's getting into playing shape still. He's only played in a handful of games this year, really. So jury's out a little bit on his defense. I thought he was overall good decision-making, okay as a team defender in this game, but a couple one-on-one moments that still didn't look great. But he did get 6 rotation minutes. Bones Highland played 13 minutes on the edge of the rotation, and there were 7 guys that played 23 or more minutes with Naz and Dosunmu leading the way minutes-wise off the bench for the Wolves. So the rotation, the minutes allocation is something that certainly we'll keep an eye on here moving forward for Chris Finch. This matchup, you just had to play a little bit bigger, and I think that could have limited some of the TJ Shannon minutes. Then again, the foul trouble allowed him to get into the game early. So perhaps if there's no Julius Randle foul trouble, which is when Shannon first got into the game, and I believe he came into the game in the second half when Jaden picked up his 4th foul, perhaps Shannon wouldn't have played, and it would have just been an 8-man rotation. This is the sort of game I would have expected some Jalen Clark minutes to help on the glass from the backcourt, to help it, against a team that has offensive rebounders like Klingon and Jeremy Grant, who are going to crash down. And it's a big part of Portland's offense is offensive rebounding, but Clark did not play in this game. So that'll obviously be something else. Now the Clippers have some guys you might want more perimeter defenders out there. So perhaps that's a matchup where we see Jalen Clark on Thursday. And I talked about on yesterday's show, the Jalen Clark stat, right? The Wolves are 20-4 when he plays 15 or more minutes. Obviously he didn't play any minutes in this game, which is interesting. He hasn't, without digging into it too much further, I don't think he's been completely out of the rotation in a game that he was active and healthy for in a long time. He just didn't play in this game. All right. Let's close this thing by talking individual studs and duds. We'll peek ahead at what's next and talk about the upcoming shows here the rest of the week. We'll do all that here next to close out the show. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure is on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the 1 minute that I'm going to talk to you about Indeed, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support this show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. All right, let's close this thing out by talking individual studs and duds. Obviously, Jaden McDaniels. Already talked extensively about Jaden. 29 points on 12 of 16. Comes out, shoots 75% from the field, 5 of 6 on threes, 7 of 10 on twos. Only had one free throw attempt and he missed it. 6 rebounds, 5 blocks, 3 steals, 2 assists. He had 3 turnovers in this game. 3 of his 6 rebounds were offensive as well. And he was by the way, a plus 10 in a game that the Wolves won by 3. Nobody else was better than a plus 7. And Minnesota had 4 guys who were even or negative in this game. Okay. And Jaden was a plus 10. So can be a noisy stat. I think it was valuable in this game. And I thought Jaden was awesome. There's no two ways about it. Rudy Gobert also a stud in this game. 10 points on 4 of 5 shooting. Did not score until I think it was very late second quarter. 19 rebounds, 7 of them on the offensive glass, which was necessary to kind of combat Donovan Clingan, who only had 4 offensive rebounds himself. Like Portland, it's a huge part of their game. They had 16 offensive rebounds as a team, 4 from Clingan. The Wolves had 13, 7 from Rudy Gobert. He also had 2 blocks and a steal and 4 assists in this game for Rudy. He was good on the short roll. I thought his screens in this game were great. Early in the game to free up Ant for some stuff. Late in the game to help free up Dante for some shots. Jaden in the pick and roll a little bit with Rudy as well. But Gobert, I thought the screen game, like the Ant dagger, the one shot from the field Ant made in the fourth quarter, I think he might have made 2, but like the big one he hit was a 3 just to the right of the circle and came off a Gobert screen that was a legit good screen. Whoever the defender was chasing Ant tried to sell the moving screen. It was not a moving screen. It was a good no call by the officials, but it was a good screen. And Ant got his shot up. It went around the rim, backboard, rim, back down, and in for a 3-pointer in a huge moment. But Rudy freed him up with that screen. I thought Gobert was really good. A little bit of a slow start for him, but ultimately a fantastic Gobert game. 10, 19, 4 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal for Rudy Gobert. My last stud, part of me wants to give it to Ant because if he doesn't go for 25 in the first half, like the Wolves are down by I don't know how much at halftime, 5, 6, 8. And maybe they pack it in. I don't know. I hope not, which I guess says a lot about where this team's at right now. But he was pretty bad in the second half on both ends of the floor. I thought as locked in as he was, even defensively in the first half, Ant was really locked in. Like it was a 2-way clinic from Anthony Edwards. It's hard to understate just how good Ant was in the first half. And honestly, that's kind of how Jaden was throughout the game. Like first half Ant, full game Jaden was just unstoppable. Like kind of the best versions of each of their games. But the second half was really rough for Anthony Edwards, and he tried to shoot his way out of it, and he was just a little bit off. I have a tough time giving him the last stud, honestly, because the second half was so bad. He finished with 5 turnovers to 4 assists, and despite starting the game shooting really well from the field, his 34 points took 27 shots to get there. He was 5 of 13 on 3. So I'm going to give my third stud to Dante DiVincenzo, 19 points on 7 of 13, 5 of 10 outside the arc. Really nice to see Dante hit a high volume of threes on a high volume of attempts as well. We haven't seen him squeeze the trigger quite as frequently here of late. In fact, this is the first time he's had double-digit 3-point attempts in a game since January 25th, so exactly a month ago or just under a month ago. when he had 15 in a loss to Golden State. This is the first time he's had at least 8 attempts in 2 weeks, which I guess the All-Star break's in there, but you have to go back 5 games for the last time he attempted more than 5 shots in 5 3-pointers in a game. So nice to see him get the shots up. Continues to obviously be a phenomenal shooter, and you can't make him if you don't shoot it. Or said another way, as many great people have said, depending on whether you think it was Wayne Gretzky or Michael Jordan or Michael Scott, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And that's obviously Dante's philosophy. He hit one that was like a 34-footer or something in the first half of this game, or early third quarter, actually. Anyway, Dante was really good. 4 assists, 2 steals. I thought he was pretty effective defensively as well, given some of the issues the Wolves have had. He had 19 points on 13 shots, 5 of 10 on threes. One of the better DiVincenzo games we've seen in a little while. My only dud in this game, I thought Bones, by the way, I thought was, as far as Bones Highland games go, which I'm, a bit dubious. I if you missed yesterday's show, I spent a lot of time talking about how Bones should play a lot less. I thought he was okay in this game. I thought he competed defensively. He played with a bit of an edge in this game. I thought he was okay. I had Dosunmu as my only dud. He had 7 points on 7 shots, missed his only 2 3-point attempts, did hit a nice floater at the end of the first half, which was important. Played some decent minutes mixed in there when there were some bigs in foul trouble. But ultimately, defensively, I think he's been disappointing. Offensively, he's got to make the threes. Now, we're still only talking about, 5 games in a Timberwolves uniform, so painfully small sample, but another negative plus-minus. He was a -10. Nobody else was worse than a -4 in a game the Wolves won by just 3 points. So I thought Dosunmu had a bit of a rough go. Certainly not anywhere near fire alarm mode right now, but he's just got to play a little bit better. He's got to be more consistent when he gets the opportunity. And there's probably a level of still finding his footing as well with this new team. And that's to be expected. Okay. Next up for Minnesota. I should also mention, and we'll talk, I guess, a little bit more about this on the show tomorrow on Thursday when we'll get you ready for Wolves Clippers Thursday night, but we'll talk standings. Like, that's going to have to be a regular thing that we go into here on the show, just given the time of year. Golden State lost to New Orleans, which is only a little bit impactful just given how far back the Warriors are falling. Phoenix lost again, of course. They scored 77 last time out, and they scored 81 against Boston on Tuesday night. And then also the Lakers lost to the Magic. So some Western Conference standings implications. We did see Houston won their last time out. OKC won again. But with the Lakers lost, Minnesota is now alone in 5th place. They're only a half game behind Denver and Houston, who are tied in a virtual tie. The Wolves are actually 2 back in the loss column behind Houston for 3. But if you look at the games back number based on the number of games every team's played, the Wolves are only a half game out of the 3 spot is one way to look at it. They're a game clear of the Lakers, who are in 6. So a nice day for Minnesota. And by the way, they are tied for 4th with Denver in point differential in the West. So a nice day for the Wolves, and a big game upcoming against the Clippers, who are right now in the 10th and final play-in spot in the West. And they're 5.5 up on Memphis. So they've obviously got a lot to play for to try and get out of the 9-10. They're 2.5 behind Golden State for the 8th spot in the Western Conference. But Wolves Clippers on Thursday night. We'll preview that game on Thursday's show, as well as we'll look at some additional rotation thoughts. We spent some time on it yesterday, but a couple more things I want to dig into, maybe some Ant playmaking things as well to talk about before we preview Wolves Clippers on Thursday night. Big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube, as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. A reminder, if you haven't already signed up for the Everydayer Club, you can do that over at lockedonwolves.supercast.com. You'll get ad-free episodes of Locked On Wolves. So if you never miss a show, the Everydayer Club is built for you. You also get access to a members-only Discord channel and more. Again, head to lockedonwolves.supercast.com or click the link in the show notes to learn more. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll send you to the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel immediately following this episode here in just a moment. If you're listening on audio, make sure to make your second listen NBA Game Night over at Locked On NBA. Of course, Locked On Wolves is also part of the very same Locked On Podcast Network. Remember, the Locked On Network is your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.